What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be doing a leather steering wrap on my 2019 F-150 XLT. So my truck came with the urethane steering wheel and I didn't really mind it at all, to be quite honest, but it is starting to get worn down and there's a little bit of pitting at the top right where I put my hand while I'm driving, so it's getting annoying to kind of feel that every time I'm driving and when the wheel's spinning in my hand. So we're going to do a leather wrap on this steering wheel. I got a cheap $50, $60 one off of Amazon, and essentially it's just a wrap that we're going to put on and then we're going to sew it all together. Apparently it takes quite a while to get it sewed on, so I'm going to go ahead and rip the steering wheel off of the truck as the first step and then go inside and do it indoors because it's way too hot out in Florida to be in the garage all day doing that, and I don't want to idle my truck for a few hours. So we're going to go ahead and start by getting this steering wheel off, and then we'll go ahead and go inside and start sewing the leather steering wheel wrap on. Alright guys, so first things first, when you're working on anything electric on your truck, especially if you're going to be around the airbags, make sure you disconnect the battery. I've had mine disconnected for about 30 minutes now, so all of the charges should be discharged at this point. You can also go an extra step and remove a couple of fuses for the airbag if you really want to be safe, but I think we'll be okay with just the battery undone. So to remove the airbag, we have these two little holes on the side, one on each side, that we're going to stick an Allen key in, and it's going to pop the tabs on the airbag, and then we can go ahead and pull it out and unplug it, and once we get that out, we're good to just remove the steering wheel. So I'm going to go ahead and get the Allen key going on this and get the airbag out, and then we'll get the steering wheel off and go inside and get that leather wrap started. Alright, so on the back side here we have these two plugs that we need to take off. They are color coded, so don't worry about it when you take them off, like labeling them or anything. One's blue and I think the other one's yellow. But we're going to need to take these little tabs out. They come straight out at you, so just stick a screwdriver down in here and pull out, and then they should pop out. And once we have that, there's one more little wiring harness on the side that we'll take out. Alright, so here's the airbag unit. As I said, they are color coded there, blue and yellow. And then there's this one little red one that you gotta undo. It does have a little hook catch thing on it that you need to just kind of pry out the plug a little bit. It's hard to explain. Alright, so there's one more plug here in the back to disconnect from the truck. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. It's just a kind of like pull down tab. Might be able to kind of just do it here. Yeah, so there we go. We have that out. So everything is unplugged at this point, and then we just have this one bolt here. It's, I believe, a 15/16 or something very similar. So we're going to go ahead and undo that, and then we can take the steering wheel right off. Alright, and I wanted to show you what happens when you're sticking this into the side. So if I go ahead and put it in the side here, you can see it come through there. And then what you need to do is be able to get past this little metal piece here and then push into the back of the airbag and kind of push it out to release it from that little hook there. So you need something long enough. Oh, and one final note here, I was kind of dumb and did not center my steering wheel, so I'm gonna have to pay pretty close attention, making sure the clock spring there with those two holes is lined up properly to the wheel going up and down. If not, we might just need to kind of do like a little bit of a fake alignment on the truck, but hopefully I can get it fine without messing it up too bad. So if you're going to go ahead and do this, make sure your steering wheel is straight up and down, and it'll be a lot easier to get the steering wheel back installed properly without it kind of being cockeyed. And just to show you here, there is an up indicator on the bolt there. I'm not sure if you can see it kind of at the top there, but that'll be super helpful for getting the wheel back on, because we know it's a little bit cockeyed that way. And then the clock spring holes should line up pretty well with that once we get it. So hopefully it'll be okay, but like I said, if you can get it straight up and down before you start, it'll be a lot easier. You won't have to worry about it. All right, so I have the steering wheel laid out here on a pad on my dining room table. So we're gonna be able to do this in the nice cool AC, but here is how the leather steering wheel wrap comes. It's vacuum sealed in this bag. Brand is Bellinus. I'll have it linked in the description below. It's just a $50, $60 one off of Amazon. But let's go ahead and get this bag opened up and see what's inside. And I'll also show you once again what the steering wheel looks like before. All right, so once again, here's the reason we're doing this leather steering wheel wrap. My urethane wheel is super worn down, and it's got kind of like a little bit of a like sandpaper feel, and it even comes off when you rub it a little bit too much. So that's exactly where my hand sits when I'm driving. So we definitely want to get this replaced and get a nice leather steering wheel wrap on there. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so the first step here is going to be test fitting the steering wheel cover on the wheel, just to make sure there aren't any crazy gaps or anything like that. So let's go ahead and try to get that going. So I know this is going to be the top of the wheel because it has this little kind of directional stitching pattern, just like the Raptors do, but it's just a single line there. So let's go ahead and see what we're looking like here. Alright, so I had it test fitted on the wheel and it looks okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put the double-sided tape on. I think we just kind of go along the edges here around the whole thing, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so now that we have the double-sided tape on there, we're going to go ahead and get this back on the steering wheel and get it all lined up, and then we'll stick it down and start sewing. Alright, so the instructions say to start sticking at the top and the corners, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Alright, so I think I have it taped on here roughly where I want it. We might need to adjust it a little bit as we go, but peeling the tape off is super hard, so a few words of advice there. Make sure it's stuck really, really well to the wheel wrap before you try to peel it, and then also make sure you have some nails. I cut my nails literally yesterday, so it was really hard to pick at the kind of cover of the tape to try to peel it back. So yeah, we got everything kind of stuck on there. I would also say peel off all the tape cover before you try to stick any of it down, because I stuck the top ones down to start, and then it made it harder to peel off the tape cover next to it. So I would just go ahead around the whole wheel, peel off all the tape, and then go ahead and try to tape it down. So now that we got it on here, you know, it's looking good. We do have a couple of wrinkles that I think will stretch out and kind of smooth out as we pull it tight. The only part I'm a little unsure of is this kind of like back part here. I don't know if you can see, but it sticks up a bit, so we're gonna have to see if we can kind of push it down into the trim or what it's gonna look like there. Not quite sure, but we're gonna go ahead and start with the sewing. I'll show you how to do that. I just need to double check the instructions real quick just to make sure I have it good, but I think we're gonna start in one of these corners and then we'll just kind of work our way around the whole thing. All right, so now that we have the tape on, it says to start inserting the edge down in to the little gaps, so we're gonna go ahead and start doing that. Alright, so I got the bottom part here kind of tucked in. You can tell the direction I was going because the leather kind of bends, but I think I can clean it up a little bit, just try to kind of push back the opposite way a little bit. But now that we got that in, we can go ahead and start on this corner and we'll go kind of counterclockwise around it. So I'll show you how to start it here. We'll zoom in a little bit and get the sewing started. All right, so I just want to real quick show you how to thread the needle and get it started. So you're gonna put the thread through, pull it through a bit. So with the other end of the string here, we're gonna do a little bit of an overhand knot. So go over, and then make that kind of small. And this should go around and be kind of straight out. And then we're gonna pull it through. Pull it through, and you should be left with something like this, and then you just pull it tight until you have a little loop on the end, and then we're going to use that to thread the needle back through and kind of lock it down at the end. So let's go ahead and do that. Alright, so on the back corner here, we're going to take our needle with the loop and go through towards the steering wheel, pull it all the way through to where we have our loop there, and then we're going to come back around and go through our loop and pull all the way through, and then we can kind of cinch it down here like that, and then just cut off our tag end down there. Alright, so now that we have it locked in there, we're actually going to go through the hole for the first loop there that should already be there. So we'll go through, we can find it, make sure our needle still has the thread threaded through, would be helpful. Alright, so we'll go through here and out the front side, and then from here we can start our sewing. So we're going to go through the first one here and then across to the back side, and basically you're just going to make sure it's kind of pinched together the whole time, and then you're just going to do kind of a crisscross pattern. So I'm just going to go ahead and start it. Alright, so to end it, you push the needle through the back side, and then what you're going to do is wrap the needle around a few times and kind of cinch it down. Like that. And then just pull the needle through. And it should give you a nice little knot on the back side so it won't go anywhere, and you can cut that tag end. Alright, sorry for the hard jump cut there, but I have both of the bottom sections done. Unfortunately on the first section I kind of messed up a little bit. I'm not sure if you can really see, but I tore that thread right there, and that's one of the threads that are already kind of on the steering wheel wrap, and that was because I was trying to muscle it so tight. Just because I do have a little bit of a gap between, so I really needed to pull it tight, but I ended up stitching it, going through every single loop. So here, every single loop has the line through it, back and forth the whole way. So with that, I needed to do about 5 to 6 times the length of this to get it all proper, because you also have to remember that there's kind of like the little swoop part of it as well. So the first time I did it, I ran out of string, had to redo it with longer string, and then it came out okay. I will say definitely tuck everything in prior to trying to sew it, even the backside, because that takes a while to do and it's kind of hard. You really need to stretch the leather a bit to do it, at least with the one that I have here. But otherwise, I think I'm kind of content with the look of it, at least for now. Some of these like back little corners, I don't know if you can tell, they stick out just a little bit back there. So I might need to do a little bit of like super glue kind of thing, or I tried putting another piece of that double-sided tape on this one, but I think I might need to super glue a couple of them just to get some of the kind of like excess loose stuff pinned back, because I don't really care how the back of it looks as long as it doesn't feel crazy. Hopefully it'll smooth out a little bit over time, but it's not too bad. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and do the final section, the large section here, and then we'll kind of wrap up going over the final product and talking about the challenges of this and what to look out for if you're gonna go ahead and do it, or if you should just buy a pre-wrapped wheel, because that is an option. So we'll talk about that at the end. I'm going to finish this last section. All right guys, so here is the final product. That top one probably took me 45 minutes, close to an hour to do that whole thing. So definitely budget some time for this, especially having the wheel off of your truck. You're obviously not going to be able to drive anywhere with it off, so definitely budget some time. But I'm actually relatively happy with the way it came out. So it looks pretty good. It feels great. Just like I said before, there's a few touch-up spots that I'm going to want to do a little bit of like super glue or some type of tape to kind of hold down just the corners a little bit better. But as far as like the bulk of the wheel, it looks and feels pretty great. It's nice and tight. Honestly, a little bit too tight as far as the installation goes. I'm not sure if you can kind of see in there, but there's definitely a gap between the leather for most of the wheel, which made it extremely difficult to install and made it a lot harder to kind of sew, because you need to really pull the corners or the edges of the leather together in the middle and keep pressure on it as you're kind of weaving it through. So my fingers are definitely sore, but overall I think it's pretty good. I'll give some final thoughts here in a second, but let's get this back on the truck. Alright guys, so there you have it. The steering wheel is installed with the new leather steering wheel wrap. Just some final thoughts on it. You know, the install was pretty long, it was pretty hard. I guess not necessarily hard or difficult, just took a lot of time. It was very tedious, hurt your fingers, that kind of thing. I will say, I think the wrap that I got was maybe not the best for the wheel. If it was a little bit bigger and fully like wrapped around the wheel, it would have been easier. I wouldn't have had to put so much tension on it while I was trying to sew it up, and it wouldn't have snapped any of the kind of already existing sewing lines in the wrap. So those are a couple things to look out for. Overall, it still looks great, it feels great. I'm honestly a little bit surprised at how well it turned out after I started, because when I started it, I really thought it was going to turn out pretty crappy, but it ended up looking okay, so I'm excited about it. So just a couple things to look out for or consider before you go and do this install. Definitely find a good quality leather wrap. You know, mine had 4.2 or 4.5 stars on Amazon, so I thought it was good. It was about middle of the price range, but I think, you know, it just maybe wasn't very specific to the steering wheel that I had somehow, and just like either that or it was like cut short or something. So the second thing, definitely take your steering wheel off of your truck to do this. I can't imagine sitting in the truck for 3 hours trying to do this, especially like trying to get on the back side of this. It's just not really gonna work while it's on the truck. I've seen it done, but I highly doubt that it was fun, and it probably was a real struggle trying to get it done if you do it that way. So I would highly recommend taking it off the truck to do it. And finally, the decision between doing a leather steering wheel wrap versus just buying a leather steering wheel. You know, pros for the wrap, obviously super cheap, still pretty good quality. You can get different types of wheels with like the red line at the top, like the Raptor, different perforations and different leather types, that kind of thing, different colors. So that's one of the benefits. Cons, super hard to install, doesn't look as clean. You know, you can see the hard edges where the leather switches back to the urethane because it doesn't completely cover all of the urethane spots on the wheel. And finally, just like difficult installation, obviously. It's very time consuming. It's gonna hurt your hands, gonna hurt your fingers, and it's probably going to piss you off at least a few times throughout the process. So if it's worth it to you to not have to do all that and just spend the $250, $300 on a new steering wheel, totally get that. And I think if I were to do it again, I might do that as well, just because this is quite the project to get done, and it requires a lot of time where you can't be driving your vehicle, so that kind of sucks. Yeah guys, that's going to be it for the install video. Thanks for watching. Feel free to drop any comments below if you have any. Like I said, I'll link to this steering wheel wrap if you want to get it. However, I can't highly recommend it just because, like I said, it didn't fit perfectly. Dimensions wise, it's great, other than it's just not thick enough to fit around the full steering wheel comfortably and make for an easy install. So I'll have it linked in the description if you want it, but maybe worth trying a different brand if you're gonna do this. But yeah guys, that's gonna be it for today's video. Thanks for watching the install. Like I said, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and I'll get back to you. But otherwise, see you in the next video.